Anne McCue that's me, actually. I am Anne McCue, and I started probably as a guitar player, and then became a songwriter after that, and then I had to start singing because I was writing songs. So I did that, singing and playing. I've toured all over the world as a musician, a lot of solo, but also playing guitar with other people on records and tours and whatnot. And settled here I was in Los Angeles for a while. When I settled here, I really got my home studio going. I started producing other artists, and I've just recorded my 8th album, and I recorded it here in my little home studio mostly. I also do a radio show on WXNA called Songs on the Wire, and I've done some videos as well. I actually got a degree in film production, film studies, and am a frustrated filmmaker and novelist. The radio show started on eastnashvilleradio.com. I always wanted my own radio show. It was on my list of things. And so I started doing that. I started interviewing the singer-songwriters in East Nashville. And then I moved to WXNA, Nashville's best radio station. It's a community radio station, 80 volunteers, no program director. Everyone plays exactly what they want to. And my show has changed a lot. It probably started more in the Americana. Now I do more ambience, film soundtracks, string quartets, music from all over the world. I love instrumental music, and so I play a lot of instrumental music as well as songs.
So you've got a new record coming out, Holy Roller Coaster.
Yeah.
Tell me about the name. Why is it called that?
Well, it's sort of a reflection of my life, the ups and downs of being an artist. It's very much like this, and it's going to be like that for the rest of your life, because you're an artist, so you're relying on inspiration. You're an independent contractor, basically. You have no security, job security. You have no creative security because you're relying on inspiration. So you don't know when that's going to start and stop. And I'm at a point where I look back on my life and I just see the ups and downs, and it's exciting and it's depressing. I mean, that's life, isn't it? If you're going to go up, you're going to go down. So, and also I like the 3 words, like a Bob Dylan title from the 60s where he was using 3 absolutely 14th Street. So I have Holy Roller Coaster, but the word holy is spelled WHOLLY. So it's a play on the word as well, the phrase.
Now, I've listened to the record, and it's got a real retro sort of style to it. Can you tell me about where you drew the inspiration for coming into that retro idea?
Yeah, I think doing the radio show, I had to, because I've got to play different songs every week. I try and play new material every week that I haven't heard. That doesn't mean it has to be a new song. It could be, a lot of it's from the 60s, and I got into real psychedelic music from the 60s that was very obscure. And it drew me back into the Beatles and the Kinks and Pink Floyd, first album, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and all that sort of 60s stuff. And I did some work with Robin Hitchcock from England, playing guitar on his album, and he really drew me back to the Beatles. And it was really great to hang out with someone who was so passionate about the Beatles. I am like that, but I hadn't listened to them for a long time because, there's a lot of other music as well. So I just got all that stuff. Magical Mystery Tour by the Beatles is probably my favourite. And the Kinks, etc. And I just put it in a big sort of creative melting pot. And I added a little Brian Eno and XTC in there. And I just was on that, sort of listening to that kind of music, and they're the kind of songs that started coming into me from the ether. So when I first came to Nashville, the concept of co-writing was introduced to me, whereas before that I'd always just written my songs by myself and waited for the inspiration. And Nashville has a real history of co-writing and I did it with friends, David Olney, John Hadley, Amelia White. I I didn't do a lot of co-writing. I never really co-wrote with a stranger, like they do here. But and it was fun with friends, you know. But I decided that I wanted to just go back to the way I used to do it, which was I had a 4-track recorder, cassette recorder, and I would start playing stuff, and then I would start adding instruments and melodies and lyrics to that. So I would be recording while I was writing. So I decided to start doing that. I met Joe Leckis from Palm Ghost, and he was doing that. We'd both been writing on guitar for a while and trying to get a whole song in one piece. And then when I met him, he reminded me that's how I used to write songs. So I just got my home studio set up, my Pro Tools, good microphones and a preamp, and I just started recording musical ideas. And then I would write the songs as I was, so I wrote the whole album while I was recording it. I recorded most of the instruments myself, like the bass, all the guitars, keyboards, funny sounds, little instruments like the bouzouki. And then I got drummers that I have played with over the years. So it's like a retrospective of different drummers I've played with. And they recorded in their studios and sent me the tracks. And then there's a guy here called Jim Hoke. He plays almost every instrument. He definitely plays every reed instrument. So he did all the horns, some flutes, zither, and some other funny sounds at his house. So that was pretty much it. Megan Palmer came and did a little keyboards on one of the last song I recorded. And the mix, I got Dylan Aldrich from Skinny Elephant. He lives around the corner. He's got a studio, a great studio. And he and I are very much on the same page. Like, we like the same music, and he gets a very ethereal sound. He kind of adds this ethereal. I was mixing it myself, actually. And I was trying to do it like a 1967 mix, left, right, panned left and right and in the center. And I was doing it, but I'd heard the music so much, I couldn't really tell what it was sounding like. You know, after you've heard it that much, you start hearing the cells, the DNA. You can hear you can't hear the actual song anymore. So I handed it over to Dylan, and he put his like ethereal touches on it and made it sound a lot better. The record's going to come out in 2024 sometime. I would say, see, I just got invited to play a 42-date tour at the beginning of the year, playing guitar. So I can't put it out in February like I planned because I'll be on the road. So I imagine it's going to come out March, April, May or April.
There was a girl who loved a man. He let her run and then he ran, but she had felt ashamed, for she had lost her name.
The Witch song is total divine inspiration kind of thing. I was watching a show about how the Inquisition, how they used to torture people who they thought were witches, men and women actually. There was even a guy called the Pricker, and he would prick their skin all over. I mean, they tortured these people. They drowned them, they burned them. Anyone who was probably homeopath, a healer of some kind, an astrologist, whatever it was that they didn't like. It was actually just fascism, the Inquisition. And they tortured a lot of people and killed a lot of people, beautiful people, probably poets and who knows what else, musicians, by calling them witches. And anyway, so that did sort of set something off with me. And then, I don't know, I was playing in this tuning, I think, or I was playing the bouzouki, and I just started coming up with this and it's a very acoustic-y, hippie, folk, mysterious song that came to me, the whole story. In fact, my partner had the idea of the witch being drowned and then turning into a fish. And I just clutched onto that idea. So that's what happens in the bridge. She actually turns into a fish. When I listened back to it, I was trying to put some shaker on it, and I'm like, that doesn't work. And I realised the time signature was mostly 7/8. I didn't even realise that when I wrote it. It was just like I didn't think about that song at all, it just came in and I just wrote it down. The Loneliest Saturday Night is probably my most zen song on the album. It's about loneliness, and I've experienced loneliness a lot. I feel like I've been a very lonely person, but I think a lot of people feel that way. I'm not saying I'm lonelier than anyone else, but Saturday night, there's this pressure to always do something. You've got to have friends, you've got to go out and do, it's like the holidays, you've got to have your family to go to. You have to, on Thanksgiving, where are you going? Everyone asks you, what are you going to do? And it's like, what if you don't have somewhere to go? You know what I mean? It's very lonely, it can be very lonely. And a lot of teenagers especially feel that loneliness and isolation. I know that social media has made people feel a lot worse, even though they think it's making them feel better. It makes people feel more isolated, strangely enough. And so I want people to realise it's just the loneliest Saturday night. And tomorrow morning is Sunday morning. The sun's going to come up and you're going to be having another day and new things are going to happen. So it's a zen look at loneliness. Feeling all right now. Obviously it's a fun, hopefully a fun song. It's definitely a nod to the Beatles and maybe XTC as well. I'm really proud of the structure of it and the key changes and how it all came together. It's quite a complex song. It's actually the most difficult song to play live off the album. And that's the one that took us the longest because it's really quite fast and it does change key a couple of times. From one, halfway through the chorus it modulates and then it goes back to the original key, which I don't hear a lot of that happening in songwriting these days, and I love that stuff. XTC were the masters of that kind of songwriting. So I'm just really pleased with the way it turned out. It's a song about when all the fascists die and everyone can breathe a sigh of relief, because I think in the last few years for us, good and evil really became very obvious. Most of us have been oblivious to that notion, except in movies. You know, Harry Potter or whatever it is the good guy and the bad guy. But we've actually seen it up close more now. To me, it seems more apparent. I know in other countries it's been obvious for a long time, but I just think that you know, good and evil paradigm is really facing us right now, and it's a very scary time. But I want to feel positive in the face of it. So that's why I'm feeling all right now. We can breathe, we can just, everything's okay for now.
Tell me about what it was like back in Australia when you first started making music. I wanted to go back to 1996 and the song Always off the Laughing record.
Yeah. Always is one of my oldest songs.
Always, always, you will be always. Always, 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 you will be close to me. I've watched
The first band I was in had split up, and that's kind of like a divorce where you're really sort of, you've got to start again, you know. And so I started just on my acoustic writing all these songs. And that song was inspired, a friend of mine was a drug addict, one of my best friends, and so it was sort of a song to her. You know, not really, like the details aren't exactly, but that's the inspiration. I was worried about it. And I thought in general, when you see drug addicts or homeless people in the street, they've had a friend. They had a friend. They used to be in a part of a family and they had friends, and now they're sort of on the streets, you know. So it's just that notion of knowing someone who's gone that far down that spiral. My first band was called Vertigo after the Hitchcock film. That's the band I should have kept together, because the school band, the high school bands, are the ones that really, like the Beatles, U2, or the college bands, you know, the Doors, whoever it is, REM, they're the bands that really are special, because you have this connection, soul connection, they're your friends. But I didn't. And then I went to Melbourne and I joined a band called Girl Monster, which was a rock band, I guess. But I was also studying jazz guitar on the side, and I was listening to Miles Davis and all that stuff. So I was always in these two different worlds. I always felt like I love this, but I'm playing this music. Do you know what I mean? And then when that broke up, I started just really writing more songs and trying to follow my own path. I mean, the songs of mine that seem depressing are about hope, really. Stupid is about somebody who tried to commit suicide but didn't die.
Stupid on a lonely afternoon. I almost gave up on my life too soon.
Now that sounds really depressing, but it is this kind of, it was a stupid moment in that person's life and they're glad they're alive. Do you know what I mean? It was included in Time Life box set, History of Folk Rock. So that started with Bob Dylan, and then my song was one of the last songs on the 4 CD collection. So it's inspired by 60s folk rock. Roll was my record that came out in 2004, and it sort of got me on the map in the Americana scene. I was touring with Lucinda Williams and other artists, Richard Thompson and Paul Kelly and all that, opening for them. So I got a lot of touring out of the album, and I'm going to re-release that actually in 2024 on vinyl. So that's something to look forward to. It's an album I recorded with Dusty Wakeman, who also recorded some of the Lucinda albums in Los Angeles. And yeah, I'm really proud of that album. I think it has stood the test of time. I Want You Back is inspired by Johnny Cash interview I heard. I was also on the road with Lucinda Williams, and she just had a breakup. So I was hearing her talk about it to people. So it was Johnny Cash and Lucinda Williams came together, and I just got that riff, down, 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 down. And I used to love Westerns. I don't really watch Westerns anymore, but so it's a Western, you know, it's in black and white. It's a story. It's, if you can imagine Gary Cooper, you know, getting on that train kind of thing, it's that kind of story.
He's got an angel inside. I wanna feel, I wanna know him. He's got an angel inside. It feels
Angel Inside. You know, at that time also, that's off my first album. I was living in Los Angeles, driving through Laurel Canyon listening to Joni Mitchell. And it was one of the best eras of my life, probably where I was the most happy and content and excited. It was just amazing that I went from being, you know, hungry in Melbourne to driving around in Los Angeles and making an album, recording an album and listening to Joni Mitchell and stuff. So the guitar is open tuning, very Mitchell-esque sort of way of playing guitar. And yeah, it's just a romantic song, I guess. Yeah, love song.
Put your red dress on, we're going uptown. High heel shoes, let your hair hang down. Oh yeah, there's good luck my way. A little white cat crossed my path today. Well, do it right.
Little White Cat is from my album Blue Sky Thinkin', which is a tribute to pre-World War II music, swing music, gypsy jazz, etc. Little White Cat is a song about good luck. So, you know, there's that Howlin' Wolf song, a black cat crossed my path, I ain't superstitious, and all that. So I was thinking about it, if a little white cat crossed your path, perhaps you would have good luck that day. So that's what the song's about. It's just a real fun romp, guitar romp about good luck. And it was, it was put forward for a Heineken commercial, and it was perfect fit. The commercial actually had a little white cat in it, and it just went with this ad perfectly. It was a long playing ad for cinemas, and it was amazing, and we were just like, oh my God. And yeah, they chose Elvis Presley. Yeah, again, safe bet. I mostly just play guitar. I also play lap steel. I'm getting more into C6 tuning lap steel, which is what you might hear on the old country stuff, Loretta Lynn and all those old Patsy Cline, etc. There was a time when lap steel, it preceded pedal steel. So you'll hear some lap steel on those old recordings, and then you'll hear a little pedal steel. But apparently, pedal steel was invented in Hawaii during World War II when the soldiers went over there. The lap steel players were in Hawaii, and they started putting these pedals and rods on their lap steels to change the notes. So that's when it all happened. It's pretty fascinating history. I often use my telly, which has I'm a humbucker girl. I have Hanson guitars from Chicago, and they're very rare. Look at it. These are kind of rare guitars. I don't think there's that many of these, but they're wonderful. They have a Bixby and the humbuckers. So this is what I've always wanted, a guitar with humbuckers and a Bixby. And I was playing at NAMM one time, and these guys were there, and they're like, oh, do you want one of these? And I'm, sure. So they gave me two guitar, 6-string and a 12-string. Beautiful 12-string guitar. So yeah, that's my dream guitar. Humbuckers with a Bixby. I'd use a little Fender. I can't really lift the big heavy amps. I've got a Fender Blues Junior. I've also got an amp called a McGregor, which was built by Phil Jameson from Matchless. It's like a Vox head, and it's a trapezoidal amp with a purple plaid and green plaid. It's really gorgeous. It looks like a vintage amp. It's pretty old now, 20 years old. 224 is going to be quite busy for touring, which is interesting. I'm playing guitar in a tour called the Trailblazing Women of Country. That's 42 shows at the beginning of the year in the United States. And then I plan to go to Australia and England to play over there and do some more dates here for my album, for the release of my album.
Well, thanks very much, Annie. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
It's been really great.
Thanks for having me. Nice to see you all.
Feel it away, the darkest days are away.